the people of Edo North. I have listened. We have voices from the north, voices from the south, voices from the west. And then I ask the question, who is marginalizing who? Even in this Senate, as far as I can recollect, all major appointments are subject to the confirmation of this Senate. Why is it that, no, most of the statutory positions, they are subject to confirmation by this Senate. And when I look at those who influence nominations, when they have their way, they nominate from family friends and nominate from their local government to go and serve federal institutions. So we must be seen as senators when we have influence to ensure that we use it bearing in mind that every part of this country need to have a feel of inclusion. I think that we are as guilty, since we have immunity to speak in the Senate. I think we too can do better whenever each and every one of us has opportunity to make nomination.
Thank you very much.
Because I can point at some people who have been appointed on the basis of certain influences, and those appointments were not a fair reflection of the principle of federal character. Just to say that pointing fingers at others is cheap. What are we doing differently? May we have the wisdom first to practice it, and then encourage our committee to do it.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We'll go to the prayers.
I just want to speak to the last paragraph of this motion, which captured my attention very well. And that has to do with the concern of the mover of this motion, of one of the patent problems that we have in resolving this issue, which has to do with the functionality of the Federal Character Commission, an agency charged by the Constitution to moderate the appointment nationwide. And the mover said is concerned with two main things, that is chronic underfunding and, more importantly, limited enforcement capabilities for this agency. You know, people have spoken at length about what we observe in the Federal Character Commission, about some very, very important agencies and their attitude to the activities of the Federal Character Commission. To some of them, they don't care what they do there. They don't even refer to them when they're making appointments. So we have to charge our committee here. One of the things they have to do during this assignment is to make sure that they recommend proper funding of this agency, and that we give more power of these enforcement capabilities to the agency. That is, it's not a small job. People who want to dodge them, which will, as a legislature here, give sufficient power and capability for the monitoring to this agency, so that they will be able to monitor effectively and report back to us.
Thank you, leader, for being precise.
Important motion. It has been in the other paper severally, but because of legislative exigencies, we've not been able to take it. But today, I thank you for the opportunity. Mr. President, the motion is the urgent need to address the systematic abuse and ineffective implementation of the federal character principle in the Nigerian public sector. The Senate notes the persistent challenges in achieving balance and equity within Nigeria's public service due to limited recruitment opportunities, skewed promotions based solely on years of service, and inefficient avenues for worker mobility outside the public sector. Also notes that the federal character principle, entrenched in the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended, mandates fair representation in federal appointments to reflect the linguistic, ethnic, religious, and geographic diversity of the nation. The Senate is aware that Section 14, subsection 3 and 4 of the Constitution, which unequivocally stipulate that no predominance of persons from a few states or from a few ethnic or sectional groups should exist within the federal government or its agencies. Senate is also aware that despite a focus on geographical quotas, imbalances persist between institutions, often relocating problems rather than solving them, while certain regions remain underrepresented. Observes with the concern that the process of addressing public sector disparities has been undermined by institutional inertia and lack of accountability, particularly as recruitment at senior levels is influenced more by internal preferences than by merit and fairness. Also observes that the quota system has, in many cases, created confusion between merit-based recruitment and equitable state representation to the detriment of discipline, moral, and institutional efficiency. Highlights the constitutional criteria for equitable distribution of employment, which requires that each state contributes its proportionate quota of 2.75% of the national workforce, and the Federal Capital Territory to account for 1% of the workforce, while catchment areas are to address localized recruitment for junior staff up to 75% of positions. Regrets that against the spirit of Order 96, subsection 27B of the Senate Standing Orders 2023 as amended, and section 62, 88, 89, 14 sub 3 and 4, and the TEPS Schedule Part 1 C81 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, which bestowed on its Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs the power of legislative oversight in matters connected to the implementation and monitoring of the policy. It is deemed that various federal institutions, including NMPCL and its subsidiaries, NUPRC, MPA, NAFDAC, PENCOM, NDIC, FUTA, NLNS, MEDAN, ECN, SMDF, NNRA have consistently failed to adhere to federal character mandates, often by passing regulations in their recruitment exercises. There are several evidences. Also regrets that their contempt emanating from foregoing, if unchecked, will continually erode the efficacy of Section 14D and E of the Legislative Houses Powers and Privileges Act 2017, Part 1, Sub 1 and 2 of the Subsidiary Legislation 23 of 1997, and Section 11.2 of the Freedom of Information Act 2011. And finally, concerned that the Federal Character Commission, while constitutionally empowered, remains hindered by chronic underfunding, political interference, and limited enforcement capabilities. The Senate accordingly resolves to mandate the Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs to conduct a thorough investigative hearing on all MDAs of the federal government with a view to immediately ascertain their degrees of compliance with the provisions of Section 14.3 and 14.4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, ensuring fair and equitable representation across all regions and ethnic groups in appointments, promotions, and recruitment, and report back to the Senate within 4 weeks. I so move, Mr. President.
We'll start with the minority leader, then Senator.
And I rise, Mr. President, to second this very, very important motion. Mr. President, The federal character principle as enshrined in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, is not an accident. It is intended to address fears of ethnic domination, or religious domination, and to create some level of harmony and cohesion in the nation's polity. Mr. President, the security, harmony, and cohesion of this country is non-negotiable. Yet, there are certain institutional limitations that tend to undermine the very laudable provision inherent in the federal character principle. Mr. President, this motion and the attendant prayer by the mover of this motion brings to the fore on the urgent need for this country to seek to strengthen and build very strong institutions. Yes, it's possible that certain lapses on the part of the implementation of the federal character principle may have been responsible for some of these lapses that we're talking about here. Yet, Mr. President, as former Minister of Interior, I'm aware that sometimes the desire of the Federal Character Commission to address some of these issues that we talk about here.
Leader, I have 1 minute.
Sorry?
You have 1 minute more.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, 1. Okay, I turn back, so it's 2 now. So, Mr. President, Mr. President, I know that sometimes when even advertisements are made, some states find it difficult to even comply with the requirements of this law. Mr. President, it calls therefore for very aggressive awareness and sensitization programs to let the people know of their responsibilities. Secondly, Mr. President, I am aware, even as chairman of the Senate Committee on the Federal Character Commission and Intergovernmental Affairs in the 9th Senate, I came across very stirring problems of the Commission. They want to go to Benue State, for instance. They don't have vehicles. They want to go to Kogi State or go to Kano State. They have difficulty because of lack of personnel. And so, while we urge the Federal Character Commission, Mr. President, to take urgent steps in addressing the fears of many Nigerians as regards to whether they are adhering to the principle or not, I want to say here that I think we must urge this government to provide sufficient funds. First, to provide logistics, and secondly, to provide personnel for the proper implementation of the federal character principle. As I'm talking to you, Mr. President, I'm not sure that the Federal Character Commission has permanent office space. So, Mr. President, like they say, to whom much is given, much is expected. But in this case, I think we must reverse it to say, to whom much is expected, much must be given. So if we equip the Federal Character Commission sufficiently, I am sure that the human beings that man that commission are patriotic enough, nationalistic enough to make sure that the federal character principle is adhered to. Thank you, Mr. President.
Sorry, Deputy Leader, I have already mentioned that
Yes.
they are going to speak.
Principally because Federal Character Commission, as enshrined in our Constitution, is supposed to carry a onerous task of making sure that all appointments are balanced in order to ensure justice, equity, and fairness among the various component parts of the Federation. Unfortunately, what we see today is lopsidedness. The Constitution says that the composition of government of the Federation and that of the state should be done in such a way that there will be no preponderance of one ethnic group or religious group against the others. But today, what we see is completely different. So there is urgent need, Mr. President, for this Senate not only to mandate the Committee on Federal Character Commission. I will even suggest that we should have an ad hoc committee that will carry this very important assignment. We understand that some MDAs are recruiting people secretly. They don't even seek for clearance. They do it without the knowledge of the public. And in most cases, these appointments are subjective. These appointments have elements of nepotism. It's geared towards sidelining other states of the Federation. So I believe that if we set up an ad hoc committee, it's better than allowing the Committee on Federal Character Commission to do the job. If they have been doing their job, there wouldn't be need for us to debate this very important issue. Every state is represented by a commissioner in that Federal Character Commission. And I know that most of them are complaining that the MDAs are not cooperating with them. They go and employ people without informing them. And even if there is an alarm, they are often ignored. Perhaps because of political interference as suggested in the motion. So, Mr. President, yes, I will wind up. I support this motion, but in the prayer, I will strongly suggest that we should have a very strong and higher-powered committee that will do this investigation. And it should be composed of people who will look at you and tell you you are wrong, whether you are a minister or a permanent secretary, whoever you are. If we leave it to the Committee on Federal Character Commission, we will not have the desired result. So I rest my case, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Please, I plead with you so that we just speak for a short period because we have some concurrence here.
My name is Senator Professor Anthony Ane. I represent Ebonyi South. Mr. President, permit me to say that I support every intent, every objective of this motion. This motion is so fundamental because it touches on the fundamental of our very existence. We are talking of equity, we are talking of justice, we are talking of fairness in the functions and functionalities of government. This motion has captured it all, and many people who have talked on this have laid very good foundation. This is something that happens in our daily lives. Unless you are touched, unless you are affected, you will not feel concerned about this. Of course, what I intend here is that I want to urge the Senate as an institution, as a body, to come up with strong will to see that the Federal Character Commission does her job and does it very well. If you are appointed as the person who is in charge of Federal Character Commission and you are being you are having problem in performing your duties, it is either the government supports you or you resign your position. I am in tune with what Senator Dixon said, Senator Dixon said, that we should keep being reawakened by the consciousness of what is happening in federal institutions. For instance, in university
Distinguished Professor, you have 1 second.
By saying that the Senate should take this up. Talking is one thing, and doing is another. This is something that touches on the very fabric of our very existence, and we have to take it very seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a problem there. Three of you.
Senate, my colleagues, I'm Senator Dickett Plang, Senator representing Plateau Central. Thanks for the opportunity. The Federal Character Commission Act 34, 1996 stipulates the principle of equity, fairness in the sharing of posts and socio-economic infrastructure. In as much as we are looking at appointments and positions, enshrined in that act, it also speaks about fairness in socio-economic infrastructural distribution in the federated units. So I would wish that the Committee on Federal Character should go beyond just posts. We should also look into the equity and fair sharing of socio-economic infrastructure in the federation units. That's what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Which be on federal character and intergovernmental affairs to conduct thorough investigative hearings on all ministries, departments and agencies of the federal government with a view to immediately ascertaining their degrees of compliance with the provision of section 14.3 and 14.4 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, ensuring fair and equitable representation across all regions and ethnic groups in appointments, promotions, and recruitment, and report back in 4 weeks. Let's give the committee the chance so as to do its work. So, Senator Ume, what is your amendment?
I want to amend that the Senate shall mandate the Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs to conduct thorough investigations, hearings on all the agencies enumerated across all regions and so on and so forth, and investigate the even infrastructure development distribution across Nigeria.
But you know, I need to guide you. It's not within me. It's not within the purview. I mean, we need to guide. You know, it's not within the purview. When you talk about infrastructure development, you're talking about the budgeting process, which of course, Ministry of Finance, the Budget Office, and of course, the Appropriations Committee of both chambers of the National Assembly. So it's not within the the statutory functions of that body. So I think we need to take that away and not create confusion. Okay. Well, he has a floor.
Yes.
I'm just trying to guide him. If he insists, we'll put it to vote.
Okay. No, I will not go against.
I just want to guide him.
What I'm saying is that there has.
Do you need to, or you want to go ahead? You have just two choices.
Or I amend my prayer.
No, you have said it already. You need a seconder. A seconder? You want to second it? Okay, second.
Thank you, Mr. President.
No, allow him now a chance.
Say that the Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs shall conduct thorough investigative hearings on all the agencies enumerated, and then ensure that the government in the conduct of its affairs shall reflect the federal character provision in section 14.3.
A seconder. Senator Anthony.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you.